All right, guys, before we get going here, the reason why I decided to make a video about Andover, Aeroflex-Andover, 1-2 November, is it's the first airport that I went to where and I talk about this in the flying video, but first airport that I went to that really kind of made me fall in love with Cubs. It's, everybody makes jokes about New Jersey, because when they fly into Newark or Camden or Philly area, that's kind of what they think New Jersey is. But New Jersey actually has some really, really beautiful areas. And if you go to Aeroflex-Andover, you'll see that.
Do a quick little run up here. First thing I always do is just flight control check, make sure everything's free and correct. Bring it up to 1500 RPM, check mags, carb.
Before the hour 15-minute flight up there, I usually on longer flights like to do just one quick loop around the pattern, just to kind of warm up, I guess, if you will. And takeoff and landings are a lot more fun than cruise.
Off to my right is Princeton, and next stop is going to be Solberg. Nice little airport. I'm going to stop there because the problem with the Cub, great airplane, doesn't hold much gas. Takes you about an hour to get up to, hour 15 to get up to Andover. And I want to do some pattern work up there. Gas doesn't open until 9. And then we're going to go to Blairstown for pancakes. So rather than land in Blairstown with a gallon of gas, I'll stop at Solberg, get 3-4 gallons, and then continue on to Andover. This way when I get to Blairstown, I got plenty of gas. So about 15 more minutes to Solberg, and then we'll stop there and we'll get some gas. A little windy on the ground, but it's not too bad up here. I'm showing 55 miles an hour over the ground, which for the Cubs kind of just what it does. The way back should be a little quicker, so we'll see. My buddy Chris and his Luscombe that I some video earlier taxiing out. He just got out of annual yesterday, and on the way out here, his engine was stumbling a little bit. RPMs are rolling back on him a little bit, so he turned back. And then I got my buddy Steve coming up in his 170, beautiful 170 I had about a little bit ago. So he'll meet me up at Andover. We'll do some pattern work there. And then head over to Blairstown. So that's the plan for now. And Andover is actually where I first really fell in love with the Cub. I flight instructed out of Caldwell which isn't too far from Andover, and we stopped there to do our work on grass. There's also an airport called Trinca close by, which is now closed. But anyway, Andover is where I first saw the Cub and kind of fell in love with it. That's where I did my tailwheel endorsement with Andover Flight, Damien, and an 85 horsepower J3, which is perfect. And I also did some steermen flying up there, which you might see the steermen out there today. It's a beautiful day, so we'll see. Wind's starting to get a little stronger. I'm showing 45 over the ground, which is pretty slow even for the Cubs. So the only positive about that, I guess, is on the way back I'll have a tailwind. So Solberg, traffic Yellow Cub, 2 mile final, 04 Solberg.
So I was going into Solberg to get gas, and I was being lazy, and I was going to pick the paved runway instead of the grass runway. And I called, like I normally do, 15, 10, and then 5 miles out. And I was calling straight in for 4, and was on short final. I realized, and you can see the look on my face, I realized that runway 422 was closed because they're repaving it. Joke's on me, didn't check the NOTAMs. Should have checked the NOTAMs, but I guess it's a teaching moment, right? Always check the NOTAMs. It takes 3 seconds in flight, and I didn't do it, and I obviously didn't land on the runway, but I got close enough to where I felt like an idiot. Not a big deal, just kind of looped around, landed on the grass, but check the NOTAMs. It takes all of 3 seconds, and you won't make yourself look like an idiot like I did, almost landing on the paved runway. But serves me right for doing a straight-in approach, right, and not checking the NOTAMs.
Looks like today's theme is going to be crosswind, a little bit of crosswind from the left, not a big deal. It's early enough to where the wind's pretty steady, so as long as there's no gusts with the crosswind, it comes pretty manageable up to like 15, 20 knots. But when it gets gusty, there's just not enough power to kind of get yourself out of trouble, so I try to stay away from that unless it's a grass strip with a really, really wide runway. But
Cub short final 04 Solberg. That's turning final 31 Solberg.
Some of you thinking, I can't believe you flew for 30 minutes and then got gas. I stopped at Solberg for gas. So the problem with the Cub is it has a 12-gallon nose tank, burns 4.5 to 5 gallons an hour conservatively. So if you get to Andover and then I tool around for half an hour in the pattern, it's going to be tight getting to another airport where there's gas. So it's just easier to stop, get 3 gallons, 3-4 gallons, and then this way when I get to Andover, I've got plenty of gas. It's amazing how you have to manage fuel or Cub especially when you're doing pattern work, you're always at high horsepower, high power settings. It burns through 12 gallons pretty quickly, even though it's only a 4.5, 5 gallon an hour airplane. So it's just easier to stop when I know I've got plenty of gas rather than kind of push it. So just, that's why I stopped at Solberg to get gas. So when you're approaching Aeroflex-Andover from the south, you can pick up the airport from probably 20 miles away. Not only is there water on both ends, but the way the hangar's set up, it's just a really large area of trees and forest, and then you see all the row of hangars. It's really easy to pick up coming from the south. And it does get pretty bumpy there. There's some terrain turbulence. Not a big deal, but just something to watch out for if you're flying in there. It does get pretty bumpy. And it's left traffic for runway 21, right traffic for runway 3. And there's a bit of a hill to the right side of the airport, and there's a lake that you kind of have to avoid. The point is, just read the NOTAMs and read the comments in FliGht, which actually has a lot of good information as well. Again, paved runway, but it also has grass. I usually take off on the grass, take off on the pavement, land on the grass. It just makes sense, a little easier on the tires. Andover, the elevation's 583 feet. The runway's 1980 by 50 feet. So it's New Jersey's most challenging airport, not so much because of the terrain around or the fact that it's under 2,000 feet, but it's just because there's water on both ends. So it's kind of like landing on an aircraft carrier, is the local joke around here. And you'll see the video that I post first is me coming in, I believe it was last fall, on runway 21. A little bit prettier of an approach, coming over the water. You can see the colors of the leaves are changing, so really pretty. Yesterday, however, the wind was pretty strong coming out of the opposite direction, so you couldn't land runway 21. So you'll see the rest of my pattern work is runway 3. So after the one coming in 21, you'll see all the rest of the work is runway 3. And the winds weren't so bad on the surface, but they were pretty swirly. So landing 1900 foot runway, water at both ends, landing with a tailwind just for a YouTube video. Not that smart, but I wanted you to see the approach from the opposite direction. So here's the video there. So. So once I got to Andover, took a bathroom break, said hello to my buddy, and then I went up and did some pattern work. So here you go. as airports go in the Northeast, you're going to be hard pressed to find an airport that's prettier than Aeroflex-Andover. I highly suggest checking it out, especially in the fall. If you're going to go in the fall when the leaves are changing colors. Just a really, really beautiful area. You'll also probably see Damien of Andover Flight, where I got my Tailwheel Endorsement. You'll probably see him out floating around. He's got the J3, which I did my training in. I think it's a C85 stroker, so it's got plenty of power. He's got a Super Cub, which is, I mean, it's awesome. It's got slatted wings, 180 horsepower, big Alaskan bush tires, really cool airplane. Steerman, which I've done some training in a Steerman there, and he also has a Chipmunk, I believe, or Super Chipmunk, or Super Chippy he calls it, but it's one of those things. But other than that, it's not too busy of an airport, so you check it out if you can.